All righty, folks, it's official. Sellers are panicking. We're going to do two things. One, we're going to talk about how can you tell if your seller is panicking. And again, we are talking about selling real estate, preferably single-family homes. We'll talk residential. We'll leave multifamily out of this conversation. We'll save that for Jonathan Twomley. But again, what are the signs that home sellers are panicking today? And then most importantly, we will pivot that conversation into how you as a buyer can take advantage of this situation. I know, Matt, you and I are usually on team buyer side. We will certainly end this conversation there, but let's talk about sellers. Sellers are selling into an environment where interest rates are higher today than they were a year ago. They are selling into a world where we have war, which is never good, a new Fed chair, removing forward guidance, taking mortgage rates higher, and higher. I would not be surprised, frankly, if we have a 7 handle on the 30-year mortgage by the end of the month. So I thought we should talk about sellers first and signs that they are panicking. What are things that you see when sellers start to panic?
Yeah. And first, before I say that, I'd love to say something, because even though we're team buyer, even though that's the jersey we wear, and trust me, like, it's fun to be on team buyer right now. Some unsolicited advice if you are a seller, because there's people that I need to sell, I need to move cities, I need to, sell this place and net a couple $100,000 for my purchase in Texas, because we're moving there as a family. There are things you can do as a seller to not be a panic seller. And I think, to make it short and sweet, be realistic and understand that everything you talked about, economic, political, all types of uncertainty in the world, higher rates, all of this stuff leads to less buyer demand. Know that when you list your house for sale, there's less people that can buy it. There's less people that are willing to buy it. And so if you're a seller,
I'm sorry to start there. I want people to realize what you just said, and people don't forget this. This is economics, so we're trying to educate too. Demand is a 2-step function. You have to be willing and able, right? And that's what's changing. We are scaring mom and dad. We are increasing the cost of debt. All of those could impact willingness and ability. Both of those are being constrained. Sorry, please continue.
Yeah, no. And on my side, I talk to buyers every single day. So if you want to know what buyers are thinking that may be able to buy your house, when the able button is checked, yes, you're able, you qualify, but then that's attached to a $46, $48, $5,200 a month mortgage. They go, you know what? I don't think I'm going to buy right now. Or they can't look at your house anymore. They're going to look at something in a different neighborhood that's a little smaller, and they can get for $200,000 less. So as a seller, the number one thing you can do, be realistic, get with an agent who is going to speak truth into you and says, listen, I know that in 2022, somebody sold in this neighborhood for $750,000. Today's current market, look at this comp. Look at what happened over here. This seller's at $699 has been on the market for 120 days. I don't want that to be you. Let's start at $639. Let's have your house be a deal. You'll probably get $640 or $650. But if we start at $700, this will sit for 3 or 4 months. I'd be doing you a disservice if you let me list it at that price. That's what a great agent's going to tell you. You need to also listen, because a house that starts at $700,000 and sits for 4 months, you're going to finally get frustrated and tired and desperate and sell for $625. You put it on the market today for $639. 3 or 4 people are interested now because it's a deal, and you get $645 or $650. I see it happen day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out for 13 years straight now. So like, somebody who's done thousands of real estate transactions knows this. You as a home seller, you're a great nurse, you're a great doctor, you're a great firefighter. You don't study the market every single day. So you don't know this stuff. It's okay. That's why you hire a professional. So that's that side of it. I already forgot the question now because I wanted
That's okay. I want to hit that again. The thing that I want to talk to sellers about is, again, as somebody who's been looking at real estate every day now for 25 years, this is not a great market to list in, right? This is going to be very reminiscent of early 2022, I guess August of 2022, when Jerome Powell said pain is coming. The next 6 to 9 months were a bloodbath.
Right.
So I want you to realize that it's very likely that the next 6 months will be a bloodbath. So what I would tell sellers is, do you need to sell? Like, do you need to sell? Like, and sometimes life happens and you just got to go. Or do you want to sell? Because those are very, very different things. If you just want to sell, might not be the market for you, right? It just might not be. You might want to wait another 6 months, get to February, get to March of 27, and enter the spring selling season. I won't promise you it will be better, but it will probably be better because we are heading into an environment where rates today are higher than a year ago. That hasn't happened in a long time. We still have war, which could go sideways. We have threats of inflation. We have a stock market that's looking kind of toppy. And it's, if you don't need to sell, maybe wait.
Right.
But,
in the negotiations, the needy party usually loses.
yes.
Right. And
yes.
so there's plenty of buyers now. I don't need to buy. I'd like
Right.
to buy. And what a glorious position to be in. If you're a seller that need, this has to go, got to do it within 60 days, you are desperate and you will lose negotiations. As a buyer, I'd like to buy, whether it's this one or that one, doesn't bother me. I'm just looking for a deal. You get to control the negotiation. So it's a wonderful place to be. And I don't know if you want to transition there, but
no, let's hit a few more things. Because again, the real question, which neither of us has answered yet, are what are signs that the average person just watching could see that a seller is motivated? And I'll give you one example. You start to see price drops on a schedule. Is it every Thursday because they want to catch the weekend? And some of these price drops are $1,000, but they're highly motivated to be at the top of the screen, and a price drop can help that. So if you start to see scheduled price drops like every Thursday or every other Thursday, that is a sign. Sometimes in the description, it will actually say seller is motivated. Sometimes it's in the realtor notes, which you can't see, but your realtor can see. It could say things like bring all offers, right? There are signs and vocabulary that you could see this. Another one is, in my opinion, is the house empty? Like, has the seller already moved? Are they carrying 2 mortgages, right? These are some signs that I look for when I'm getting ready for a disrespectful offer. Do you have some more?
Yeah, well, I think that you hit the nail on the head. And I just watched Ben Mala talk to Graham Stephan and Jack, our buddies near you.
Mm-hmm.
He said something that as a real estate investor for decades and decades is so true. He said, every seller has a story. Every real estate transaction has a story. And so as a buyer, you want to know that. Like you said, Mike, they've emptied the house, they've staged it to sell, and they're already across the country, right? You may or may not know that as a buyer, but you get with an agent who's good. They're going to talk to the listing agent. What's going on with this house? They'll get that story every single time. And you want to, use that story because there might be a seller that still has a renter in there and they list the house at $599 and you're like, I'm going to offer $530. Well, talking to the agent, this seller doesn't have to sell. If they get $580 plus, they will, because it's not cash flowing. They don't really like this property. They'd like to move on from it, but there's no way on God's green earth they're going to let it go for $530. Know that right away and move on to the next one, because the next one, you hear the story and, there's been a divorce.
Exactly.
Heirs inherited this house and they don't want it. They are going to sell this house. Those are motivated sellers. And that's one right now, Mike, I'm seeing a lot of. Heirs invest. The last thing they want is mom's house.
Yeah.
They're going to sell the property. They've
Absolutely.
been on the market for 85 days. They may or may not have done a price reduction. A quick tip for everybody, and not knocking real estate agents, but a lot of them suck. So they might not have priced it right. They might not be correctly doing price reductions, but they've been on the market for 88 days.
Yeah.
If you've got a great agent who can speak some knowledge into this agent, hey, listen, I know these 3 brothers don't want mom's house.
Right.
Truth be told, at 580, I don't think this thing is even going to get looked at. Here's something that sold for 535. Here's something else that sold for 540. I've got a client who likes this property. 530 may sound ridiculous to your sellers, but show them this info. Tell them that this is where the market at. Tell them that rates are high. Tell them that buyers are scared. And, through that negotiations, that's a house that you can get for 530. But the other one where the investor has already made up his mind, 580 I sell, anything less I won't. Don't even bother.
Exactly. Love that. All right, let's switch gears now to team buyer. Again, in the market that I think is coming, the only winners are going to be people that are like us, disrespectful offers, follow up 17 times. So I'll give you a couple of my thoughts, but again, you see hundreds, if not thousands a month of these kind of things. One is you got to ask for seller credits. I mean, you got to ask for rate buy downs. I think conventional taps out at 2%, DSCR taps out at 6%. Go get all of that. This is not an environment I pay anywhere close to list price. It's just not like, if I'm going to find the motivated seller, it's going to be like, I want to walk into significant equity. And I don't want that equity because I cleaned it up. I want to frankly steal that property today. I only need to do one deal a year, right? I'm not somebody that's got a team that I got to do 17 deals to keep overhead. I have to do one amazing deal a year, and I'm going to find the most motivated seller I can. And I'm going to get a deal of a lifetime. Those are some of my first thoughts, but I'll let you riff on what you're seeing.
For some reason, I thought I saw in your eyes that you were going to say, I want to beat him up, but I could feel it coming.
Yeah. And I held it back.
I'm going to beat him into submission. Real quick, because you mentioned too, on an investment property conventional, 2%, yes. But if you're buying it as a primary, we just got 6% for a conventional buyer, as long as they got 10% or more down.
Nice.
And on FHA, they can get 6%. Obviously,
good to
owner occupied FHA. And so, talk to somebody who you like and trust who can give you the numbers on max credits.
Go get all of it.
Even on investment stuff, I've seen it where, somebody negotiates a $20,000 credit. I go, hey, listen, at 600 grand, you can only get 12. Oh gosh, easy fix. Tell the seller you agreed to 600 with 20K in credit. Let's lower the price. Let's do 10 and 10. Let's go 590 and 10,000 in credit.
Same to them.
And it's same to the seller. But yeah, as team buyer, this is the most fun environment to be in. Quick caveat I have to mention, because I'm seeing seller credits, in my market in Sacramento, I'm seeing it in Texas, I'm seeing it in Tennessee, I'm seeing it in Arizona. Not every market is the same. You tell me you're going to buy in the Bay Area, and
good luck.
There's tech people that just, they use $100 bills as toilet paper. They're going to offer 500,000 above ask. They have to remove all their contingencies.
Did you see there were 23 homes in San Francisco that went for $1 million over ask last month?
I believe it. I believe
23.
it. Right. Every single conversation about Bay Area buyers, I talk to the agent and they go, listen, to have a chance, we have to remove contingencies. To have a chance. And so, for those buyers, quickly speaking to them, talk to a loan officer who is willing to fully underwrite your file and say, listen, there's no way this falls out of contract. When I do that for people and I say, you're okay to release your contingencies, I do it. And I say, if you have a $20,000 deposit and and we can't get a loan done, that's my fault. I'm going to pay that back. And that's risky, but on them, the onus is give us everything we need. Give us a little bit of time to get this in front of a lender, because I'll hold the lender to the fire. If they tell me we had this, as a TBD underwrite, no property address, we told you we can get a loan done based on X, Y, and Z, I'm going to get the friggin' loan done. And I don't feel good about anyone ever writing non-contingent unless we're 1,000% sure. So
got it. Love it.
With that out of the way, as a buyer, getting credit, getting discount is great, but make sure you do it correctly. Everybody's situation is going to be a little bit different. For some people, absolute rock bottom price. I want to pay the lowest price, have the lowest mortgage payment, which, I shouldn't say those two things in the same breath, because lowest price is almost never the lowest mortgage payment. You structure it at 600 with 15,000 in credit, and you do some rate buy down, you do some other stuff. That's a lower mortgage payment than paying 585. But you have to know this stuff. And, Where I see this misdone more than anywhere else, Mike, is with new builds. Because with new builds, they throw humongous credits at sellers and then, or I'm sorry, at buyers. And then I look at it and I go, you spent $32,000 to buy it down to 5.875. Like, you could have got 6.125 or 6.25 and spent 1/3 of that. What could you have done with the other 20? Paid all your closing costs, you know, prepaid property taxes, homeowners insurance, title fees, you know, 17 to save 1/4 or 1/8 more, because the builder, they're just like, we want to advertise a low rate.
Right.
And we want this price for our house. So if you pay $700, you're going to get 30,000 in credits. That's nice. But if going from 6.25 down to 5.875 costs 22,000 of that 30 credit, that's a waste. You know, that $110 a month is going to take 200 months to break even.
Right.
Don't do that. And I don't expect people to understand that. And when we say it really fast, people are like, wait, what are you saying? That's okay. Talk to somebody. Have somebody in your corner. You hire a professional. Like when I talk to my financial advisor and he talks all kinds of fancy market stuff, I go, dude, talk to me like I'm in 5th grade.
Yeah.
Let's put together a plan. And then based on all your experience, say, here's why I think this, and here's why I think that. Ultimately, it's my decision as the person investing the money, but make it simple for me. And so there's 1,000 different ways we could slice the pie and use seller credits based on your situation. You have to be talking to somebody that goes, okay, here's what I would do if I were you. You might consider this if you want to set it and forget it and get the lowest rate, but I'd probably do this. You could even do this and then put them side by side. You sit down with your spouse and go, we can have this payment and use the credit this way. We can have this payment and do the credit this way. Because I mean, honestly, Mike, for me, that's the fun part, you know, all the math involved, all the analysis, like that's where I think I actually earn it. And I'm worth something. I'm valuable as an advisor versus just saying, you know, oh, you want low rate? Cool. Click button, get mortgage does not work when you have all these extra variables.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, if you are team buyer in this environment, I think having somebody that's willing to do those multiple kind of, what is your situation? What is the opportunity is the right thing. Cause again, you know, that extra 20 grand could have been used elsewhere and produced a better return. So, are we still sending everybody to mtmg.com? Is that where they should start?
Yes, sir. mtmg.com. A quick ask for anybody and everybody from the ORAC community. I want to make sure you're well taken care of. If you go there, schedule an appointment. We'll get on a call with you. Or if you're, you know, interacting with our system and asking questions, the more info we have, the better, right? Every situation is unique. And, you know, scheduling a call without any background info for us, you know, puts us at a little bit of a disadvantage. If you put a bunch of detail in there and I'm like, this guy is looking for this and that, can I do an LLC on a HELOC in this state? I can see it, know that I've got a 10-15 with you, and then go, you know what? I'm going to make sure before I jump on a call with Mike that this company could do a HELOC in an LLC. Right.
You take a step out of the process.
Right. Rather than jump on a call. I'm not sure. Let me get back to you. Right. Because there's 5 bazillion different things in mortgage, even after 13 years and thousands of mortgages. I've got to check things. I'd love to do that before the call so I can give you a clear answer on the call.
Love it. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you.
Thanks,
mtmg.com. Thanks, family.
Thanks, Mike.